Let's talk about a growing school district in California where it seems like there are two completely different report cards being issued. One is all about student test scores, but the other, it's about trust. Today, we're going to dig into the Western Placer Unified School District and how it's being measured by both.
Yeah, you can think of it like this. Every school district is really being tested in two fundamental but very different ways.
So on the one hand, you've got the official data from places like the California School Dashboard, the hard numbers that measure academic performance. And on the other hand, you have challenges from community watchdogs, which really test whether the system itself is fair and transparent. To boil it down, one test is all about the students, and the other is about the system itself. But the real question is, which one gives us the truer story? To figure that out, let's start with the numbers. All right, so let's dive into that first story, the one told by the data. And we're going to zoom in on one really important group of students, English learners. So in this district, you've got 899 students who are classified as English learners. Now, that's about 8% of all students, so almost 1 in 10. These are kids trying to tackle algebra and history, all while learning English at the same time. This group is a really key indicator of how well the district serves its whole community. Okay, so to really get what's going on, we need to compare how these English learners are doing against the average for all students in the district. And, well, this is where you start to see some pretty big gaps open up. And wow, in math, those gaps are not just big, they are huge. The district average is already about 20 points below the state standard. But then you look at students who've been English learners for 6 years or more, and they are a staggering 144 points below. I mean, that's not just a gap, it's a chasm. It shows a really deep, ongoing struggle for these kids. And if you think that's bad, the story with English language arts is, in some ways, even more telling. See, the district as a whole is actually doing okay here, a little above the standard. But then you zoom in on just one school, Glenn Edwards Middle, and you see its English learners are more than 100 points below that same standard. It's a classic example of how a decent-looking average can completely hide some serious problems underneath. And, these struggles don't just disappear. They follow students right up to graduation. The district's average graduation rate? Pretty good, over 86%. But for English learners, that number plummets to just 64%. That is a massive 22-point difference. And according to the district's own report, that rate for English learners dropped by more than 10% in just a single year. The red flags just keep popping up. You look at the district's own data, and it shows fewer of these students are making progress towards fluency, and they're chronically absent way more often than their peers. So the data is painting a really, really clear picture. A crucial group of students is being left behind. Okay, so you see all these numbers. The obvious question is, what's the district's game plan? What are they actually doing about this? Well, on paper, the district has a pretty detailed strategy. It's focused on specialized instruction, ELD in the classroom. They're expanding dual language programs, trying to get parents more involved with special committees and even ESL classes. Plus, they're using grant money for extra help. So, on paper, it looks like a solid, comprehensive plan. But here's the thing. A plan on paper is one thing. A plan is really only as good as the system that's supposed to hold it accountable. So what happens when that system itself gets challenged? And that brings us to the second story. It's exactly what happened when a formal complaint was filed by the Dismal Freedom Press. Suddenly, it wasn't just about the data anymore. It was about the district's own procedures being put under the microscope. Let's walk through the timeline. It's pretty simple. A citizen group files a formal complaint. The district gives its response. The group wasn't satisfied, so they appealed to the school board. But then, on January 20th, the board just votes 4-0, not even to hear the appeal. And the very next day, they tell the complainant that the decision is final. End of story. And this gets to the absolute heart of the problem with the process. According to the documents, the board's final decision came with nothing. No written findings, no real analysis, no sign that they even looked at the merits of the appeal. It was just a vote and, essentially, a closed door. Okay, so we have these two separate stories, right? One is about data and the other is about process. So how do they connect? Well, it all boils down to one word: trust. There is this concept called systemic accountability. And the basic idea is that a healthy school system needs more than just good test scores. It absolutely has to have processes that are fair, transparent, and that everyone can trust: students, parents, the whole community. And that, right there, is the critical link between our two stories. When a community sees really worrying data, like those huge achievement gaps for English learners, they have to believe that the system for getting answers and demanding change actually works. If the numbers show a problem, the process for fixing it has to be open and reliable.
All of this really brings us to a huge fundamental question about what it even means for a public school district to be accountable. So, what really tells the true story of a district's health? Is it the data on a dashboard that shows you exactly where students are struggling? Or is it the fairness of its own procedures, showing how the system responds when it's put to the test? Maybe the truest measure of all is found right where those two stories collide.